So I can get sorry the treatment city. So what do you batlang? That's why I didn't see more about ka quality. What tolerating. Right. Sincerely Mokataba. Mr. Chauke, once again. So Mr. Chauke in the house. Today it's about program evaluation, of which program evaluation is the systematic method of collecting, analyzing, and using information to answer questions about projects, policies, and programs. It helps organizations assess the effectiveness of their initiatives and make information based on the data. So Mr. Chauke is here once again in Sekicho to tell us more about the program evaluation and how to assess policies. Mr. Chauke, can you define the purposes?
Yeah, greeting to everyone and the viewers. The issue that I will start with, it is very clear. What I would like to start with is based to answer your question. Firstly, the program is going to be dealing with assessment. So assessment, firstly, is start with analyzing. After analyzing, then you are able to analyze something that is from the data collection. So firstly, when you collect the information, you collect an information to put it on the data. Then that data, it is the one which will give you the indicators to say this information result informed by these indicators. Then that's where you now analyze and come up with solutions to that results as outcomes. So policy assessment, it also based on design programs where you evaluate a policy before you implement it, because you will first check and analyze it, either this policy is it suitable for the country, or either is social, either is economical, either is energy, either is any administration or of impact assessment or other GHG emissions, but it is base study of assessment. So this assessment study indicates the analysis and the results and the findings actually.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, to proceed, Mr. Chauke, because there has to be stakeholders in Totinjalo, and how do you collect data and things like that? Can you brief us on those?
Yeah, there is what we call it the stakeholder engagement. The stakeholder engagement is a program where you put all the stakeholders, the non-governmental organizations, the community-based organizations, government, private sector, that's what we call it, the stakeholders, and the other political parties, where they will jointly, if the government initiate a certain policy, like for example, so there are public comment and public participation. So that public comment and public participation, it goes on environmental impact assessment, where they analyze those policies to verify either is this policy going to be suitable, and then there must be transparency in that, where stakeholders will participate equally to the input in terms of that particular policy. But also there is what we call it a policy review during that particular process, in terms of analyzing either is it, because it works with strategies. First you will initiate the first strategy to say, okay, this policy, is it workable? The second step, it is this policy, does it have negative impact or positive impact? Is this policy going to be sustainable in relation to sustainable development framework. Is this so? Each and every policy, when it's assessed or analyzed, before it gives the outcomes, it must be measured. So after being measured, it will indicate automatically as to either it will go positively or it will go negatively. So the assessment study, it is a method of analyzing the just transaction in relation to policies.
Okay. Yes. Mr. Chauke. All right, woman, I would love us to go step by step. Told Mr. Chauke.
Yes.
Maybe we party the pants away.
Yeah, I would like to give a presentation now that I would like to read in relation to these steps, so that even the viewers can have the understanding in relation to this step-by-step assessment.
Okay, Mr. Chauke.
Okay. Firstly, the assessment guide are intended for a wide range of organizations, institutes, individuals. Through the document, the terms user, which refer to a person implementing the assessment. That's one. For example, how different types of entities can use the assessment guide. That's the second aspect. Then we will say the government assess the impact of policies and action to inform policy design, monitor progress of implementation policies and action, and respectively evaluate impacts to learn from experience. That's government.
That's government.
Then we come to donors, agents, and financial institute. Assess the impact of financial provided, such as grants, loans, support policies, and action, include results-based financing. Then we come to businesses. Business assess the impact of private sector action, such as voluntary commitment, implementation of new technologies, private sector financing, assess the impact of government policy actions on business and the economy. That is business. Research institution and non-governmental organization assess the impact of policies and action to assess their performance or provide support to decision makers, such as the politicians. So we've got the common types of policy actions, which I would like to read, that you must understand. The types of policy or action: we've got the regulation and standard, we've got the taxes and charges, subsidies and intensive, voluntary agreements or actions, information instrument, emission tradings and program, research and development and deployment policies, public procurement and policies, infrastructure programs, implementation of technology processes of practice, financing, inventory. Those are the elements. Then I would like to describe them as I've illustrated in the document, the description. First, I will start to the regulations and standard. Is the regulation or standard that specify the appointment technology regulation, or standard or minimum requirement for energy consumption, pollution output, or other activities performance regulation or standard. The typical include penalties of non-compliance. That is regulation and standard. Now we come to taxes and charges. Then we describe the levies imposed of each unit of activities by source. For example, fuel tax, carbon tax, traffic congestion charges, or import or export tax. That is the taxes and charges. Subsidiaries and inventories is the direct payment of tax reductions, price support, or equivalent provided by government to an entity for implementing or practice, performance, or specified action. That is the subsidies and inventories. So we've got the voluntary agreement or action. Agreements, commitments, or action undertaken voluntary by public or private sector. which means actor either or jointly in negotiated agreement. Some voluntary agreements include reward or penalties associated with participating in agreement or achieving the commitment. That is the voluntary agreement or action. Continuing in reading in relations to information instrument, now we go to information and instrument. Requirement for public disclosure of information, they include labeling programs, emissions, reporting programs, rating and certification systems, benchmarking and information education campaigns aims at changing behavioral or increasing awareness. That is the information instrument. The emission and trading programs, the programs that establish a limit of aggregate emissions of various pollutant from specified sources require source to hold permit, allowance, or other unit equal to actual emissions and allow permits to trade among sources. So these programs are also referred to as emission trading system or cap and trade programs. It is emissions and trading programs. Then we go to research, development, and deployment policies. Policies aims at supporting technology advance through direct government funding or investment or facilitating of investment in technology research or development, demonstrations and deployment activities. That is the research and development and deployment policies. Then we've got the public procurement policies. The policies requiring that specific attributes such as social, environmental benefits are considered as part of public procurement processes. That is towards public procurement policies. Infrastructure program is a provision or granting government a permit for infrastructure such as road, water, service, and high-speed rail. That is the infrastructure programs. Then we go to the implementations of technology processes or practice. Is the implementation of technology processes or practice, which is most of the reduced emissions, compare with existing technology processes or practices. Then we go to the final one, which is financing and investment. Then the financing and investment is the public of private sector grants or loans. For example, those supporting development strategies or policies, e.g. development policies, loans, or development policy operation, such as a loan, credit, and a grant, close quote. Then that is the descriptions of what I've noted in relation. But there is the continuation in relations to this assessment that I would like to go actually to a type of intervention in relations to what we call it the broad strategy plan or goal, policy instrument, implementation of technology processes or practices. Firstly, the example is intent to increase energy efficiency by 30% by 2030. That is a broad strategy plan or goal. Then we will make an example. That is the assessment strategy. Then applicability of guidance, it will say not applicable, should further define the specific policy instrument to achieve the broad strategy. You understand? Yeah. Then we come to policy instrument. The policy instrument is energy efficient standard for appliance. Then we come to implementation of technology process, replacement of old appliance with new efficient ones. It is applicable. So all the applicability in relations to the assessment. So assessment, deciding a policy actions, design implementation, reporting policy action impacts, understanding the effectiveness of policy actions. That is the type of assessment. So the students will be going in modules. Like first module is to define the policy objective. That is module 1. Module 2 is assess the impact of export. That is Module 2. Module 3 is monitor the progress during policy implementation. Module 4 is identify potential policy and assess their impact ex ante. That is Module 4. Module 5 is select and implement the final policy. After then, these studies indicates the processes, the manner in which the assessment need to be conducted, the manner in which policies need to be evaluated, the manner in which strategies need to be analyzed. So there are a number of items that relate with the administration. I'll go further illustrating from my presentation as it will go on slide. We've got the reporting system like the National GSG Inventory, the progress made in the implementation of the achieving the NDC, support the needed and receive climate change impact and adoptions. So when you go to National Inventory Report, you will find the biennial transparency report that our government is always giving you, adoptions of communication. Then you go to review, technical expert review, facilitating the multiracial consideration of progress from the professional in our government sector, reporting input and aspect of transparency framework. The report, so the assessment guide help us to be able to understand this implementation, especially the local organizations such as community-based organizations, civic organizations such as Sanko, a number of organizations within the communities. They should be able to know how to assess things like they sit on the issues of education, including the SGPs from the schools. They should be having an understanding in relation to the assessment strategy, the analysis strategy, so that when they discuss issues, they know that this issue needs to be dealt with in this version, going to this version, coming to this version, so that they can come up with a better result. But now the study has also identified the youth development, so that it goes to the fresh mind where we implement an intellectual standard to the young generation, because they are still fresh, where they are the future people, generation of this country that will be leading in the future as future leaders. So it is important for structures such as the youth structures that they should be able to understand the assessment guide as a unique tool to assessment programs.
Yes, so far, as I've seen you, and I am with you in this movement,
Yes.
What are our plans in passing the message to the young ones? Because I think of schooling is the best, because through these live TikToks, these people's rather watch me jive and all those things. So when are you planning to go to schools or talk to the education department about what you are informing us about at the moment?
Currently, there are a number of schools that have agreed with us in terms of coming to present the program, in terms of the initiative on the assessment guide. So it depends. What I would like to advise the youth, it is not basically from the youth in the student, but we regard from 18 to 35, that age group. That should be look based to our leaders. From Solomon Plaki level, Chief Albert Luchuli, going to the level of the educated people, even to the current leadership that is running our organizations in different political parties, as this is not non-political parties, just to give an understanding in terms of the political background. The idealism in relations to this is that the leaders, they were educated for them to lead the people they were electing, the leader people, because the leader, it was the people who are having the light in the tunnel, who will show them the light in the tunnel. So a leader is an enlightened person. So leadership development require enlightenment. So without information or knowledge or capacity, you cannot lead the people because you will lead them to the blind. So it is much more important to lead the people with the light and more information and with the capacity. So what is advised to the youth is the first statement of the late former President Nelson Mandela when he came out of prison to say all the people, they must go back to school.
Yes.
That statement was very important for all of us to recognize that education is the key to success. Without education, our country, we cannot be able to run or lead our country into anywhere. So these assessment strategies, our government has went far in many countries trying to get a number of information and help us with other programs. So it is depend on the youth. Either the youth takes that very seriously and put it as a matter of change in terms of their lifestyle. I will close it in that fashion.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chauke. Okay. Thank you very